Good afternoon and welcome to the Sunset Safari. For those of you joining us for the first time, my name is Jamie and I have Jean-Dre on camera with me this afternoon. Brent is out with Brian on the other vehicle and we're heading off to explore the wild wonders of Djuma and Arathusa Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands, which falls into the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. And we are live and we are also interactive, which means that you can send through questions on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can email them through to questions@WildEarth.tv, or we'll pick them up on the YouTube chat stream as well. And today I'm also going to ask not just that you send through your questions and your comments, but also that you send through your best artist's impression of a bird. And the reason I am doing that is because it is National Draw a Bird Day. And the reason behind that, and there's a lovely little story associated with it, and it's one of the reasons why, of course, we love all of our beautiful birds out here. But the reason that we are asking this of you is many, many years ago, a little girl called Dory Cooper, whose uncle was injured in World War II in England. She was visiting him in hospital. He was devastated by the loss of his leg. Very tragic story. But Dory went across and she asked, or she said to her uncle, she asked him to draw her a bird as part of her way of distracting him. And he did. And she told him he wasn't a terribly good artist. And they had a good laugh. And then every week she would come and visit her uncle in hospital. And all of the soldiers that were there and injured got in on this game, trying to outdo each other with little drawings and little cartoon caricatures of birds. Very tragically, the little girl Dory was killed in a car accident 3 years after this occurred. And at her funeral, all of the soldiers that she had once acted as a ray of sunshine and hope for actually drew pictures of little birds, and they were put all over her coffin. Now, it's a sad ending to a very tragic tale, but it's also a story of light and remembrance of those incredible people who are of such comfort with their innocence and their joy, and that need to be kind to people. And that's one of the reasons why we're getting in with the spirit of this whole thing. And of course, out here in the Sabi Sands, we have such a vast array of incredible birds that we have plenty of birds to choose from. Now, I did my homework and I decided I was going to draw a bird, but because of the vast array of various bird life, I couldn't possibly have decided off the top of my head which one to draw. So I went with just opening the book and pointing at a random page, and lo and behold, it was one of the most common bird species that we see out here. It was a yellow-billed hornbill. Now, before I reveal my art to the critics of the world, please know that I'm absolutely not an artist. I'm 100% not an artist. I also did it in a little bit of a rush, but I will show you. I will throw myself upon your mercy and throw you my picture of a hornbill. I also then started scribbling about just because I was having so much fun. So there we go. This is my picture of the African yellow-billed hornbill minus the yellow bill. And then I drew an eagle. And then I drew a swallow, but the swallow didn't come out all that right. So there you go. That was my quick sketch. The swallow, let's not zoom in on the swallow, Jean-Dre. It's very... No, Jean-Dre, please no. That was a wire-tailed swallow, in case any of you wanted to know. That is a bird. That is a raptor. It's not an eagle. Its feathers don't go all the way down to its feet. But those are my very rapid sort of artistic expression. I haven't drawn anything in a very, very long time. So it was something of an interesting exercise. This is what I love about Safari Live, is that it challenges us in new and interesting ways. Now, I have absolutely no claim to being an artist. My art teacher, when I was in high school, begged me not to take it right up until the end of school, which I completely understand and valued her advice and took it most gladly. There is, however, another guide and presenter who did take art right up until the end of school. So let's find out what kind of impressions Brent has to show us.
Well, welcome to today's Sunset Safari, and we are with an exquisite little insect called a little acrea. Beautiful, beautiful butterfly. Now there's, and an African vagrant, well spotted, Brian. Now, those little orange guys, is my favorite family of butterflies, all the different acrias. And this is one of the smaller ones. Now you can see they're very, very sort of slow moving. No real fast movement, even when they're... And there we go, that's a perfect example of a fast and a slow moving butterfly next to each other. So we've got the African vagrant on the right and the little acria on the left. Now, one is very foul tasting and poisonous to a bird, and there he goes, and the one on the right isn't. So they've got a far more labored flight pattern than the guy who's in shot at the moment, the little African vagrant, who is very much edible. So they fly very fast and very quickly, as opposed to the crias that sort of flutter about. Now, that form of colouring is called aposematic colouring, and it's to warn everyone that they taste nasty and they're not too pleasant. But welcome to today's Sunset Safari. My name is Brent Leo Smith, and I have Brian Djuma on camera. And very exciting, International Draw a Bird Day. So at some point today, we will be drawing a bird. Brian has already drawn his. I'm going to see if we can draw from life while we're out here. But we'll see how it goes. So let's go have a look what's about. We're checking the area for Tingana. Last tracks came in here somewhere. So we're just going to do a little loop for this, through this area. We get no tracks. We're going to go check to see if Karuda's come back. So let's get going. So we haven't found any tracks of the Tingana coming through the Mulwati riverbed, but there has been a lot of elephants, so it is possible that he's been driven over. No, they're going to... Why are you staying directly behind? So they're going to be slightly laboured in flight there, but a pair of mating monarchs. Oh, sorry, Brian. They're going low. They might land. There we go. There we go. Mating African monarchs. Well done, Brian. Now, there's actually, while we're here, before we move off, there's so many butterflies about. I unfortunately did not bring my little butterfly book, and I should be able to identify the majority, including that one that just landed there. So there's quite a few different whites. Now, the whites I struggle with without a book, I'm afraid, but the vagrants, the difference between a vagrant and a white is the vagrants have, there we go, has that little lime green outside colouring. Now, the easiest white to tell is the brown veined white. And, oh, there's a big yellow as well. Oh dear, it's all happening and I don't have the right equipment. You see the big yellow one, Brian?
Yep.
Oh, it's just, let me get that aerial out of the way. And it's got sulphur tips to the wings, it looks like, so little orange tips. And I cannot remember that one. I'm going to have a look in the book when I get home. So the yellows and whites are two, and the blues. So the three basic colour schemes are the most difficult to identify when you don't have them in hand. But very beautiful nonetheless. I will find out what that yellow one is for you, because it is a particularly big butterfly. Oh, butterflies! Those were brown veined whites flying past me there. Oh, my favourite acria! It's my favourite one, Brian. Don't fly, little guy! It is called a wandering donkey. That's why it's my favourite, because it's got the most ridiculous name. And it's going to land again. Oh, my little Justicia, you got him. There we go, the wandering donkey. So it's got a... sorry, you can't seem to hear me. 1 second. I've got bars here, Brian.
No, it's fuzzy.
Sorry, I'm just going to turn it on and off. Oh, the wandering donkey wandered off. No. Okay. Still buzzing. We'll be back to the wandering donkey shortly. We're going to try to fix our audio. So across to Djuma.
While Brent fixes his audio so that he can share the secrets of his artistic method, I've come across to the blocks between Gallagher Shortcut and Aubrey's Road. The reason I've done that is I'm starting to be convinced that we have missed the Nkuhumas on some kind of kill at some point in these blocks. I don't know where exactly, and I don't know how. The only thing I can say is that with all of the elephants that have been around, we haven't really been able to track through here. Now, if you cast your mind back to, I can't remember when it was now, oh my goodness. Was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday morning when James was out on tracking team, and he said that the elephants were shouting and screaming away in this block. We heard that sound again yesterday afternoon, and we sort of, Brent and myself discussed it, and we both agree that it sounded like an elephant coming upon a predator. And then this morning when Brent and myself headed out across to Cheetah Plains, and remind me I must get back onto that subject of Cheetah Plains in a moment, but when we were heading out early this morning, there were vultures and battaliers all over the show. Now, battaliers are usually the first birds of prey to find a carcass to scavenge on. Vultures, of course, then follow suit. I have another reason for thinking that, and that is that the Nkuhumas have just disappeared. That's not to say that we haven't missed their tracks walking across a boundary line, walking across a road. With this many elephants about, it's entirely possible that either their tracks got obliterated or we just didn't see them. They might have crossed across a rocky part of the road. And I mean, just driving down this road, all I can see is elephant tracks and branches pushed over. It does make tracking relatively difficult. But none of the other guides have reported seeing tracks for the Nkuhumas. None of the other guides have reported seeing the Nkuhumas themselves. I want to check very, very carefully to just see if I can't find if their tracks have crossed somewhere around here, because at some point they're going to have to go for a drink. So while I look for our lovely lionesses of the Nkuhuma Pride, let's head back over to Brent.
So we've still got the wandering donkey, and then you can see one of those tiny little blue butterflies flapping around in the background. Well, a very distinct wandering donkey. You can see it's got a clear set of wings and a colored set of wings. That's how you identify it. I just love the name, the wandering donkey. And behind it there's a butterfly I've forgotten. I actually might get hold of Jamie. There he is. I used to know that one, and it's on the tip of my tongue, but I just can't remember. I think you might have to forgive me, but from body shape and wing shape, I'm going to say it's one of the Chiraxes, but I'm going to need a book to tell you which one. But another very beautiful butterfly, and definitely a new one for the butterfly list. I think it's a Chiraxes, just from the way it's flying and its body shape. But very, very pretty. And it's quite nice because it's a bit cool, and the butterflies are not quite as mobile. You see the big one there? Yes. Here's a closer look at that big yellow butterfly. You can see it's got a few little black spots on the outside, and they all seem to be attracted to these little yellow justicias, and that's the flower that they're feeding on. Beautiful. Oh, so pretty. So a very distinct white body as opposed to a yellow body. So another distinguishing feature we're going to have to look at when we get hold of the books. Here we go. Flappity flap. Now, it's not only the butterflies in the Lepidoptera family that's taking advantage of all these justicias. Okay, Brian, let's follow my hand. And there's a poison apple. That purple flower there is a solanum. And just to the left of the solanum, there's a poison apple for the flower fundus. We come across a little bit, and stop around there, bit down a little bit. Here we go, the daylight hawk moth. You see it, Brian?
No.
So,
there.
Here we go, it's climbing up. So there's even a hawk moth. There's another one higher up, easier to see. There we go. So it's one of the hawk moths. It's actually, I think it's not a daylight one. Yes, it's not, judging from the wings. But taking advantage of the cool weather and a nice bit of justicia flava for an afternoon snack. And you can see the difference in flight between the butterflies and the moths. Moths are far more labored in their flying. And they can afford to be, because they're mostly nocturnal. and that enables them to deal with less predators. So our daylight moths are generally either very brightly colored, pretending to be foul to eat, or there's a vagrant and another one, or they are very fast flying with almost clear wings. Very interesting little spot, this. Great spot to come look for butterflies. I mean, we've got the little acrea, wandering donkey, a blue we can't identify, African vagrant, brown-winged white, there we go, African monarch. Now, you must always double-check when looking at African monarch, whether it's a fake monarch, a bit of mimicry being shown by a diadem where the female mimics the monarch, but that is a monarch, that is not a diadem. And there's also pseudo-acreas, so butterflies that pretend to be acreas, so they also pretend to be poisonous. But that is definitely a poisonous monarch butterfly. Now I have to find out where Jamie is, so I can maybe slightly plan to try to get the butterfly book off her, because I read that Shiraxis, that particular one, last look at him, very beautiful, and it's going to frustrate me till I get the name of it for you. There he is there. So beautiful. Okay. Now, we've done some of the little things. Let's go look for some slightly larger things. Butterflies do excite me so. Jamie. Jamie, what's your position and what area are you working? Do you have the butterfly book by chance? We will see if we can get... Oh, fine. Right behind us. Well, let's go have a look at those. They're definitely a bit bigger than a butterfly. So let's go have a look there. Oh, let's go have a look there. So more eddies. Those ones are closer. Let's go there. Copy, thanks Jamie. I'll try and meet up with you a little bit later. Grab a couple. Hello, Ellies. Let's just go nice and slowly, as we always do, approaching a herd that we haven't been spending time with, just to check their look from body language to be nice and relaxed. But I'm going to drop the car into low range, so keep our revs down, and hopefully we can get into the middle of them. Hello, Ellies. It's okay. We had an interesting elephant encounter this morning while we were at the Cheetah Plains mast, getting everything set for the first Safari Live drive on Cheetah Plains. And a big herd of ellies actually just walked right into our building site, and we were busy filming and drilling and grinding and all sorts of things like that. And they got a bit of a fright and trumpeted us a little bit, and I had to have a conversation with one of the ladies and ask her to leave. She wasn't impressed. So we will be taking the first live safari on Cheetah Plains tomorrow. Oh, hello, madam. And she's got a wonderful grass notch on her left tusk. Oh, she's a little bit. You can see that indentation there from drawing many thousands of pieces of grass through her tusks. Yes, madam, how are you? No need to be funny. She's lactating, but I don't see the... here comes the young one. There we go, that one there. I think that's probably belongs to that female. The great grey giants of Africa. Oh, they are crossing the road, so let's just move up ahead before they completely disappear across our southern boundary. So, we do see elephants a lot, and it's been so, to you too, so wonderful having so many eddies around at the moment. And now, let's see if you guys have been listening to all the stuff we said. So, the scientific name for an elephant is Loxodonta africana. Now, Africana is quite obviously, or it means quite obviously Africa. So, but what does Loxodonta mean? If you break up the words, see if anyone out there knows what does Loxodonta mean. If you do know the answer, pop it in an email to me on questions@wildearth.tv or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. What does Loxodonta mean? So it seems like everyone is joining in the spirit of National Draw Bird Day. Lots of you guys sending in those pictures of a bird. Please don't forget to hashtag Safari Live in your beautiful pictures. And we got some more over here. Hello, little one. So X-Ranger is wondering, there seem to be more elephants about at the moment, and they don't seem to be that relaxed. Now, I think a lot of them are coming in from the western Kruger. Oh, look at that. Break that branch. Come on. There we go. So, sorry, back to your question, X-Ranger, and so they seem to be a little bit more nervous of us. I think it's just because they're coming in from the western part of Kruger where there's no concessions or anything, and there's no tourist roads, no vehicles. So I think they're just going to take a little while to get used to the game drive vehicles. But maybe not particularly at us, they're just not used to this scenario. And we're seeing a lot of herds that I haven't seen before. Munching on that veritable bush willow. So young bull, a little bit behind the rest. She's not looking particularly healthy, I'm afraid, this young one. Hey, little man. So very well done to Raisa and Gail, who got the answer to that quiz on Ellie's. Loxodonta means long teeth. So if you break up the scientific name, it means long tooth or long teeth of Africa. I've spotted something here, Brian. Since we had such a smashing start to those butterflies. Okay, we'll go to the path. And zoom towards that dead piece of... Oh, no, I've lost. No, it's still there. Okay, come out slightly. And, okay, there we go. Slightly to the right. And zoom. And a little bit to the left. There we go. Well done. Now, there is a tiny little butterfly called a broad-banded grass yellow. Now, I'm hoping it's going to take off shortly. Otherwise, I might help it take off. But when it does, it will show you that wonderful black band that runs along the whole periphery of its wings. The broad-banded grass yellow. But it's not flying, is it, Brian? Should I help it fly?
If you'd like.
Oh. Yeah, those ellies. Ellies are gone. Let me just help that butterfly fly so you can see why it's called a broad-banded grass yellow. Out of all the yellows, it's one of the more easy to identify. This guy really doesn't want to fly. There we go. You can see those wonderful black bands as it took off. We're definitely one of the most pretty little butterflies we see regularly. The ellies have meandered off, so let's do the same. So while we go look for impressions in the sand, Jamie's already found some, so let's go see what they are.
Oh, look what we've found here. Something that we've spoken about before, and I haven't been fantastic at doing just because there's so many other things out here, but there's a nice screenshot for you. Let's screenshot those tracks. I'm actually going to hop out to give you just a sense of scale. You can see they are right in the middle of this dried up mud wallow, which I suppose, you know, we've spoken a lot about the sort of the different sizes and the way that we use the word pan. I suppose this is almost on its way to being called a pan. The elephants are slowly going to make it bigger and bigger as they go for a mud bath. I'm going to hop out and I'm going to show you these tracks a little bit closer because they're really nice examples of the particular what makes the difference between a tortoise track and a terrapin track. And in this case, these are terrapin tracks. And Jandre, you'll just let me know if my voice disappears and I need to shout. Perfect, thank you. Now the question is, how dry? How dry is this mud wallow? Very is the answer. We're fine. So what I wanted to show you was this semicircle, these semicircles of claw marks. And they're shown up so beautifully. It's not often that you get to see this kind of track as clearly. Now, this is a very big terrapin. And with both tortoises and with terrapins, you've got that gap in the middle, like a little tank, is walking down wherever they happen to be walking. In this case, it was in the mud, or what was left of the mud wallow. And in this particular patch, it's come through so clearly that you've just got the claws. Here is the front foot. And can you see that from there, Jandre?
Yeah.
Thank you. Front foot there, back foot there. And you actually really get a nice idea of how terrapins walk. You can see the front foot faces out, away from their bodies, and their back foot kind of faces in, towards the inside of their bodies. This terrapin is going this way, and the reason we can see so clearly it is a terrapin is that their claws are so much more visible in the track than those of a tortoise. But if you really want to go into the nitty-gritty little details, a terrapin has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 toes in the front, 5 toes in the front, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 toes at the back. In tortoises, if you do manage to get that kind of mark, and the claws might show through a little bit in mud, soft mud that this would have been, then you'll know that the front foot has 5 toes, whilst the back foot has 4 toes. One of those tiny little nitty-gritties that makes this a terrapin track and not a tortoise track. Also got a little bit of dragging of the shell, and we can actually track him. We can track his progress as he walks all the way along here, and very often they scrape and they drag their feet. But he's walked all the way here, and then he's stopped here, and he's gone around. And then he vanished. And that's where our terrapin tracking ends. I'm not going to try and follow him. These are very old. This is from when this pan was still drying up. But it's amazing what you can see in here. And then these bigger tracks, where some kind of antelope, I don't know which one, it's almost impossible to tell, has slipped and slid and kicked as they go along. If I had to guess, I'd say it's a warthog. And the reason I know that is, although you can't see it from the angle that you're at, there's a very deep, almost box-like track here. But behind that, just behind where the hoof would fall, there are 2 little dew claw marks. Now, only buffalo and warthog leave those dew claw marks at the back. All right, so little screenshot for those of you working on your tracking scrapbooks, building up different screenshots of different tracks, just like we talk about building up birds lists. You can do a track list, a scrapbook of tracks, or tracking tips, or whatever you want to call it. That was a terrapin. Okay, unfortunately, not the lion track I was looking for, but it will most definitely do. I don't know. I'm still trying to work out where these lions have gone, how they managed to disappear in the first place. And X-Ranger, absolutely. The wind over the last 2 days would have masked the lion's presence for a couple of different reasons. One is that it grounds the vultures and the birds of prey, which means they haven't had time or full opportunity to fully fly and investigate the area. Sure. Load of magpie shrikes. Maybe shuffle just a little bit further forward. Here we go for our bird drawing day. Perhaps somebody would like to draw a magpie shrike. Sorry, X-Ranger, I will get back to you in a moment. Distraction for now. Apparently lots and lots of you are sending through pictures, which I'm very much looking forward to seeing. Suzanne, at the start of Drive Yours, was the only one that I saw, but that was just because I didn't quite have the chance I wanted to go through and to look. Lovely little collection of magpie shrikes and a fork-tailed drongo, if I'm not mistaken, fluttering about in the back. I'm very much looking for a starling, actually, to show you, and I'm looking for a starling because I've picked up a starling feather, but we'll get back to that. I have to find one first, because then, well, for those of you really looking for a challenge in terms of capturing the bird's color, those artists out there, capturing the incandescent colors, blues and greens of a starling certainly would be too much for my artistic ability, but would most definitely be very tricky to do. But X-Ranger, before I got distracted by the birds, the wind, yes, it would have. Oh, there's one of my favorite birds, my dad's absolute favorite birds. Well spotted, Chandra. We've got ourselves a lovely little feeding party. And poor X-Ranger will just have to hang on for one more bird before we answer his question. Probing the ground, an African hoopoe. And I actually vividly remember doing a drawing of one of those for my dad when I was a kid. He very kindly said it was lovely. In hindsight, it probably wasn't all that spectacular. Back to the wind and the buffalo. No, not the buffalo, the lions, whom I suspect might have killed the buffalo at some point. X-Ranger, the wind would have grounded the vultures. It would have hidden the smell from us, possibly, depending on which position we happen to be in. It would have kept them hiding away and less likely to come out and lie in the open. They would have been looking for shelter from the cold. So they would have been settled around their carcass, possibly finding water in the drainage lines. And it might be leading us to false conclusions and that it upset the elephants. I know Brent was telling you that elephant story from this morning, but perhaps the wind had unsettled the elephants so much that they might just have caught a whiff of lime and got a fright and started screaming like that. I don't think so, but that is a distinct possibility. And that, of course, combined with the wind's effects on tracks and tracking and how fresh a track looks, and then all of the elephants marching up and down the roads, has made life a little bit more tricky. But I must confess, I thought this was a very valid theory. I have not seen one vulture or one bird of prey. And I've explored the whole of this block. I've checked the whole of this block. I think it might be time to expand our search further, a little bit further afield, and see what else we can find. Because it was just a guess that the Nkuhumas might be around this particular area. There's one more road I want to check though before I give up on them. I'm not giving up on them, I'm just expanding my search ever so slightly. Very good point. Very, very valid point. Tony would like to know, since I showed him the tracks of the animal, what on earth a terrapin looks like. And Tony, bear with me one moment. I'll just have a look through my book. Oh, my box is so chaotic at the moment, Tony. Oh, here we go. My book of tortoises and terrapins. Now, it would be ideal if I could find initially the best example of the one that we would see here. So basically a terrapin is a mixture between a tortoise and a turtle. Now in a couple of places, let's go with this sort of example just because it shows his nice clawed feet so clearly as he hides in his shell. Now in a lot of countries around the world, sorry, I need to turn my game drive channel down a little bit, otherwise I will not be able to talk to you and think and listen at the same time. In a lot of countries around the world, there's a sort of a universal term for these chelonians, that is turtles, and that's not entirely biologically true. A turtle is an animal with a shell, just like these guys, that lives purely in the sea and comes onto land only to come and lay their eggs. A tortoise is a purely terrestrial creature, or almost purely terrestrial. We've got one species of tortoise that can swim in this area, and that is the leopard tortoise. But tortoises are land-based. They've got feet with claws. A terrapin is sort of the mixture. It's the in-between bit. It's a both terrestrial and aquatic animal that moves between the different pans, spends most of its time in water, but can cover large distances across land. And it's basically got almost webbed feet with much longer claws. And what I'll do for you, Tony, is it's difficult to guarantee something, but I can almost guarantee that at some point we will check, and I'm sure Brent will look out for you as well. We will check all of the water holes and the pans that we go past, and we're pretty much guaranteed to see a terrapin. We drive past many every single day that we're out on drive. So I will keep an eye out for a terrapin for you. Thank you for the reminder, Jack. Jack wanted to know, is the Cheetah Plains drive planned for the sunrise or the sunset drive tomorrow? And the answer is, it's planned for the sunset drive. And I'm sure, as you all know, that we are incredibly excited about this opportunity. There's been an incredible amount of hard work that has gone into getting us to this moment. I went across to Cheetah Plains this morning just to see the mast going up. Well, it's already up, but to just have a look at the site where they've put the mast up and to help out in any way I could. And it's a very exciting adventure that lies ahead of us. listen to the Game Drive channel for 1 second. While I do, let's head back over to Brent.
Dagga Boys, Chelepan, Twin Dams, and there's reports from Birmingham in Buffalo's Hook heading from Cruise Camp towards Torchwood. Look at that, guys, some kudu. I'll be with you in a second. There's a Nkonzo of Wanunengwe heading east from Treehouse towards Mawati. I didn't come out in the Mawati. I'm checking around the area now. Sorry about that, guys. There we go. There's just a very interesting conversation I was listening to on the radio, and let's have a look at these beautiful traphalegons, or spiral horned antelope, and you can see his horns are starting to spiral, this young male kudu. And there's a little one. Hello. Oh, little nervous. Beautiful little creatures. And now we've got another big female coming with two boys who've got a bit more of a spiral in their step. And you can see the horns there now starting to do those beautiful big spiral arches that kudu are famous for, or male kudu are famous for. Look at that. Such majestic animals. So we're back in this area where we think Mr. Tingana could be. Oh, look at this. These kudu are giving us a full horn demonstration. There we go. He's a bit nervous, but there's an adult male, and you can see those spiral horns I was referring to. Good to know that if Mr. Tingana is sleeping around here, these kudu might spot him. Okay, well, let's leave these kudu. The female's looking quite intently up ahead, so I'll just see what she's looking at. She could be looking at another kudu, of course, but always worth double-checking these half chances, especially since Tingana hasn't been looking at his best, and Catherine was a bit worried about that. Now, I did notice he had an injury when we found him in that rainy morning, when he was mating with Tundi, and there is a possibility, I think that injury is a stab, maybe from a hunt. But even if he is uncomfortable now, a male leopard's got a better chance than, say, a female leopard that's carrying a bad injury, because he can always just steal the female's kills. and male leopards are very good at that. But they do have an incredible capacity for recovery and recuperation in record time, the animals out here. And speaking about animals not in too good a condition, I just got a report over the radio that one of the Birmingham boys is on death's door. Now, this is the first Kruger boundary, and they think it might be a snake bite, but literally lying there, not moving, just heavily panting. And as what happens with a lot of animals here, we don't interfere, we don't from humans that has caused this injury. It could be a snake, it could be an internal injury we can't see, and they think probably going to die in the next 2 or 3 days, and the hyenas might get him before then. But I have heard that the Sabi Sons will do an autopsy if he does just die. There is another Birmingham there, so if that other Birmingham male stays with him, it's unlikely the hyenas will get him before he dies. But if that other Birmingham leaves, there is a good chance the hyenas will probably get him. Now, the interesting thing is that even if he dies, his coalition partner who's hanging around with him might even feed on him. So that is not that unusual with male lions. But it'll be very interesting to see if he does die. I always, I'm a bit skeptical when I hear these reports that I haven't witnessed myself, because I've seen and heard about lions that are on death's door 3 days later, jumping on top of a buffalo, happy as Larry. So we'll see. I will keep you guys updated. I will try to find out a bit more information. The information I did get across the radio was quite sketchy, but I will try to find out a bit more. Catherine's wondering, when will we get to see Karula's cubs? Well, Catherine, as soon as she brings them back across the boundary, so she's in Little Gowrie at the moment, or she might not be. I haven't found any tracks to say otherwise, though, so I think she still is in Little Gowrie. And I will also get on the Eastern Channel a little later, see if there's any updates on her. But if Tingana's in a bad state and hanging around this area, I think Karula's going to try to keep those cubs far away from him, because male leopards, when in those situations, if they can't steal a kill, they might even eat the cubs. I've seen it happen on quite a few times. So I'm just listening to the radio. So apparently this is the area where James lost those tracks this morning. Just going to have a quick gander about. Well done, Brian. Tracker Brian Joubert has spotted male leopard tracks, or female leopard tracks maybe. That looks a bit no, male leopard tracks. I'm not going to show them to you. They're in quite a tough spot. Well done, Brian. Nice spot. So this is the opposite direction to where I heard the tracks going. So these could be more fresh than the ones James was following. He disappeared into this little river system. So I know a lot of you might be quite upset about that Birmingham boy news, and I said it's by no means written in stone, and also by no means I suppose it is a little bit of a tragedy for us who watch these animals regularly, but it is nature, and animals die, and animals die regularly, and if we haven't affected that, it's not our place to get involved and start trying to heal them or whatnot. If we healed every lion and leopard, there wouldn't be an impala or a buffalo left. So you've just got to remember that everything's an interconnected system, and that's how it works. And as sad as it is for us, it is probably a good thing for nature. I mean, they could provide a gap for new male lions, or you never know. So it is difficult, but one must remember, we mustn't be gardeners in Eden. This is Eden. It's not for us to fiddle with. Sorry, this impala, he just changed the way he was looking, but he was looking quite intently. I'm going to spend a second here. And he actually spotted. I think he thinks he spotted something. I'm just going to see what he does. You can see that's just a little bit more an intent to stare than normal. And also you notice he's not chewing the cud, so he's not ruminating, so he's not just sitting there eating his stomach contents that he's brought up. Now this is, let me just try and get a better view of the pile for you guys. So you notice he hasn't shifted his gaze. Now, often when this is the precursor to sort of alarm calling. So he's seen something, but now he's just waiting to see if that thing moves again. And if it does, and if it is a cat, he might snort. So while we just keep an eye on what he's looking at, Brian, can you see anything hiding under a bush that looks like a spotted cat? Not currently, me neither. Let's just sit with him for a few seconds longer, or a few minutes longer maybe. Might be worth. Now, the reason I haven't charged off to where he's staring is in case that leopard is hunting him. So we'll wait for him either to move off or for him to spot that whatever he's looking for, and then we will maybe go have a closer look, because I think the tracks went off the road back there. They would have gone into that area. He's still staring. And he's looking in particularly good nick at the moment, considering it's the beginning of the rut, or into the rutting season. He hasn't seemed to have lost too much body weight, and so he's got even fat rolls on his neck. Now, he might be taking a slightly different mating strategy. He might be waiting till the males that have got all the girls at the moment are so tired and so skinny from chasing, or the other males around, that he'll just be able to be bigger, heavier, stronger, and swoop in at the last minute and ensure his genetic code is passed on. Okay, so he's going to move off. Now, this is quite often when a leopard would move, and he sees an impala moving, so I'm just checking behind us, see if I suddenly can't see a slinky beast slinking. But I don't. Let's just roll back with us for a little bit. Just double check the base of some of these bigger trees. Maybe on the edge of this little thicket here. We're not seeing anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick to my original plan. And I'm going to go make double sure that Mr. T hasn't crossed the southern boundary. And then if nothing, I'm going to come back and go have a little walk through this area. So while we do that, let's go see what Jamie's up to.
Here we go. We managed to find a greater... It's a very strange sounding Franklin. Sorry, got distracted. Managed to find ourselves a greater blue-eared starling, or in fact, if I'm completely honest, Chandra managed to spot it. I'm going to stop to have a look at the extraordinary colors that the feathers take on, even in this slightly flat, slightly cloudy light, as it hops in between the blades of grass, searching for grass seeds and whatever else it happens to be looking for. And that incredible iridescence is... And in fact, I think it was, hold on one second, I was just trying to remember who, it was James's hat. James's hat who sent through their incredible, James's hat, of course, being a name that makes me chuckle every time, but James's hat sent through an incredible drawing of a Cape glossy starling that wonderfully managed to put into practice what I was talking about how hard it must be to capture the iridescence of a starling. It takes on such an interesting and unique light. Now here we go, I've got my feather, it's somewhat battered. It blew away earlier and I thought it was lost forever, but it's still there. It's going to be very tricky to show you this in this light, but I'm just going to turn it slowly from side to side, and you can really get an idea of how the refraction works. So this is the normal, this is the undercolor, the underside of a starling's feather, totally black. And And strangely enough, on this side of things, although it is totally made up of melanin, so totally black pigment, it has this incredible overlay of keratin, and that reflects and refracts light. Now, I'm not sure how clearly you can see it in this kind of light. I'm trying to turn it at all the different angles so that you can get an idea of those purples and blues that come through as that gloss. Difficult to do in this kind of weak sunlight. It is a cloudy day, so it's not all that clear. And admittedly, the feather's looking a bit the worse for the wear. Chandra, what do you think would happen if I shone a light on it?
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Should I try that? It actually doesn't come through as clearly. There we go, there we go. There we go. That's what we're looking at when we look at the iridescence of the starling. Totally disappears when we turn the feather to the side, and then returns once again when you get it at exactly the right angle. Isn't that amazing? I don't know what purpose that has. I mean, birds take either the brightly colored route or the subtle route in terms of the feather colors that they have and demonstrate to us. And most of the time it is a reproductive technique to be brightly colored and beautiful, a sign of health. Isn't that really, really incredible? And Aileen, who's watching in the UK as I turn my spotlight off, I think that's one of the first times I've had to use my spotlight on a bird, definitely the first time I've ever used my spotlight on a bird feather. You missed what bird we were looking at. It was a greater blue-eared starling by the looks of it. Very, very easy to confuse with a Cape glossy starling, and I'll show you exactly why that is, since we are sitting here chatting a little bit about starlings and we've had a look at that feather. Cape glossy starlings and greater blue-eared starlings are incredibly similar in size and in shape. And if I could remember how to use the alphabet, it would help a lot. There we go. So here we go. The greater blue-eared starling, number 3, that is the one that we were looking at. And the Cape glossy starling is the one that is just above it. So this is the one we were looking at. This is the Cape glossy starling. And the most defining feature gives the greater blue-eared starling its name. It's that blue extension of the ear. But it's also a slightly blue tint to the belly. But that's not always that clear in practice, and it can be very, very easy to confuse the two of them. It's just that extra darkness around the greater blue-eared starling from its nose to right behind its ear coverlets. That gives it its name. So that was the bird that we were looking at, the greater blue-eared starling. Now, James's hat has done an amazing picture of our Cape glossy starling. And then the last starling, just while we're here, and we are talking about the different bird species, the last starling that you would see in this particular area that you might get confused with is a Burchell starling. The difference is that this is the largest starling that we get out here. It is much, much larger than the greater blue-eared or the glossy, with a long tail and quite a lot heavier looking. So it's about, not quite double the size, but almost. And occasionally, if you're really lucky, if you go and visit the Kruger, you might see a Meaves starling, which is also one of the larger starlings, but one that I've certainly never seen here. We're a little bit, in terms of where we are and in terms of their distribution range, we're a little bit too far south for where they occur. Alrighty, I've been speaking to the other guides of the area and just chatting a little bit about the updates about the lions. Of course, Brent has been conversing with you at length about the Birmingham boys situation. Now, I was speaking to Mike from Cheetah Plains and just trying to figure out if he's heard anything else about the Nkuhumas. He says that he hasn't. They definitely haven't crossed south. They definitely haven't crossed onto Arathusa or Simbambili. In other words, the property is to the west of us. And that last we saw them, they were heading east around the Djuma Dam. And so what I've decided to do is widen my search and then work my way back west, and then work my way back east and work my way back west. But just cutting through a block sort of different, grid at a time. Oh, that's a pity I didn't see that. I'm sorry. It was a grey daker on a termite mound. That's about as good as it's going to let us get. Little male grey daker. Oh, and it's being so obliging. And generally, grey daker tend to immediately disappear off into the vegetation. This one was standing right on top of a termite mound, obviously making full use of the nutrient-rich plant life around it. Such a delicate little way of nibbling. It's a little male with the two horns sticking up on either side of that dark strip that is the mohawk. Slide forward a little bit. See if he's not relaxed enough to get another view. Ah, come on, come on. Just need that little bit of momentum. I think he's gone. Yeah, no, he's disappeared. He was sitting right on top of this termite mound. And what I mean when I say making the use of the most nutrition that he can get from it, termite mounds, the termites have brought that soil up from deep beneath the topsoil layer. And so it brings up with it a whole level of nutrients, different nitrates, minerals. And that's one of the reasons why we always stop and talk about the standard guides question, what came first, the termite mound or the tree? And of course, often the termite mounds will take seeds down, or the termites will take seeds down and bury them. And the plant life that grows around the termite mound is much, or not necessarily completely, but generally a little bit more nutrient-rich than the surrounding vegetation. There's something I've just spotted on there, and I'll show Jandre what I mean in a minute. I'm just going to double-check that it is what I think it is, or if it's just a spider web. Oh, no, it's just some dead grass. I thought it was some milkweed to show you, which I haven't shown on the live safaris for quite a while. And milkweed, most of you are familiar with, I think. It occurs throughout the world, and it's something that the larvae of the African monarch butterfly love to feed on. But that was not milkweed, unfortunately. That was just some dried grass in a clump. Apparently you did see the African monarch with Brent earlier. So the larvae of that particular butterfly feed on the milkweed. It is incredibly toxic to you or I, and that's what makes it so, the larvae of the butterfly as well as the butterfly itself, so toxic to predators, or to most predators at least. And that's why it has that bright orange, black and white acosmetic warning coloring. A little bit about the various bird species at the Sabi Sands. James Hendry's old hat, another name which does make me chuckle a little bit. James Hendry's old hat would like to know if there's any bird species that are invasive to the Sabi Sands. One of the biggest ones is the African minor bird. Sorry, not the African minor bird, the Indian minor bird. Can't be the African minor bird. The Indian minor bird, which was introduced and has taken over, not taken over, but is seen not just in the Sabi Sands, but throughout the entire South African country. And it's a bird that has been particularly prolific in terms of outcompeting with local species, such as, it's part of the starling family. Let's have a look at the hornbill, just because I drew one, and I want to see how accurate my reflection, or how good a likeness my drawing actually managed to be. Can you see him there, Jandre? You got him. Here he is. Perfect likeness. Positively identical. Possibly not. Certainly without the vibrant colors that the yellow-billed hornbill has on them. It was quite strange that it happened to be the bird that I opened the page on. So, for example, the Indian myna might compete with birds such as these. There's also a couple of feral populations of rose-cheeked parakeets, but that's more towards the city. It's really the Indian myna that is or has been the most prolific in terms of being an invasive species in this particular area. I haven't seen that many on Djuma. I've seen them once or twice on Arathusa, and I've seen very large numbers of them in the Kruger National Park. So they are around and prove to be exceptionally or very good at surviving. They're resilient animals and very, very intelligent as well, which has made them quite the threat for the different bird species. One such bird species would, of course, have been the yellow-billed oxpecker. I don't see any on these buffalo boys that are currently sitting at Buffelshoek Dam. But a yellow-billed oxpecker was one bird species, not necessarily that was completely threatened by the Indian myna, but that suffered a very severe population knock. Hello, boys. Sitting and just ruminating on life and the cud, of course. With their 4 different stomachs for additional digestive capabilities. A lot of the animals are lying down, or have been seen lying down over the last few days. They've been trying to hide from the wind. I wonder where that breeding herd from last night disappeared.
Terrapin going in the water next to it.
Ah, brilliant. Well done, Gendre. Here's a terrapin. If we look very carefully, Tony. Oh, there he goes. There goes the terrapin that we were discussing earlier, you asked about. Here he disappears into the dam. Well done, Gendre. Thank you very much. Not the world's greatest terrapin sighting, but definitely a terrapin. Demonstrating that a combination of aquatic and terrestrial ability. The only tortoise species out here that can swim is a... Gendre, can you look at that mongoose that's all the way there on the other side of the dam wall? Can you see it there? It's... I'll tell you in a moment. It's right in that eroded section, and they're crawling about. I'll tell you again. Yeah, just keep. Yeah, it's around there. Oh no, sorry, it's a little bit further to the left. It's right back in towards this drainage line, and I think I just saw a banded mongoose, which is why I'm asking Gendre to have a look. But let's just keep looking at the buffalo bulls. I'm going to keep looking for this mongoose again. Hopefully it comes out. I know that there's a population of dwarf mongoose around here, but this looked a little bit too big for a dwarf mongoose. Let me just grab my binoculars while we watch this dugger boy or buffalo bull come towards us. Our banded mongoose population here are so shy that I think if it was one of them, it has subsequently disappeared. Oh, no, it's a dwarf mongoose, never mind. Sorry, it was a dwarf mongoose very, very far away. I got very excited there for a moment. We hardly ever manage to capture banded mongoose on these live safaris. Hello, boy. What do you think? I think he's made it fairly clear what he thinks. Invasive species, but Shannon was wondering about whether there's ever a population with a problem with an overpopulation of animals in this particular area. And it's a difficult one. It's a complex question to answer, and it's one that not all scientists necessarily agree on. So there is an argument amongst conservationists, and I use that term very strongly, conservationists who believe that the Kruger National Park area is overpopulated with elephants and that some of them should be removed from the area. The difficulty is, of course, is that how on earth do we know what an overpopulation is? We can see the effects with a dramatic overpopulation. They will convert woodlands to grasslands to the detriment of other species. They are a keystone species, so they're capable of shaping the area. But in an area as big as this, 4 million hectares that these animals can move about in, I personally don't believe that that kind of problem is one that cannot be fixed just by leaving it alone and letting the ecosystem and the animals themselves handle that kind of situation. It's very different in something known as a closed system. In other words, a fenced-off, smaller wilderness area, and there are lots and lots of them about. They are equally important, or play an equally important role in the conservation of wildlife and wild areas in and around the Lowveld and in and around South Africa. You can't have necessarily you can't have as many unfenced areas as we would necessarily like to. And then yes, overpopulation does become a problem. Overpopulation of lions, for example, can result in a dramatic drop in prey species or general game population. It will negatively impact the leopards, the lions, the spotted hyenas, not the lions, the cheetahs, any other predator in competition with lions, because of course in large numbers they're much bigger than anything out there, and they are fiercely competitive. So yes, generally keystone species. Elephants have to be managed, number of general game has to be managed, predator population has to be managed, but we are just so fortunate that at the moment we're in an area where we don't have to worry about that. It is big enough that it takes, the larger an area, the less you need to manage it. So we have got such a vast wilderness area. It seems as though Brent and I have had similar ideas of checking around the waterholes, so let's see what he has found around a treehouse dam.
So, we are with some buffalo bulls at Treehouse Waterhole. And there's a particular reason we have come to said buffalo bulls, because it's Brian's turn to show you his bird for the Draw a Bird Day. So now, this is a bird that's got a lot to do with buffalo, so we're going to wait for that bird to go find the buffalo. So off they go. Off the bird goes to find the buffalo. Now, can you identify Brian's bird? There we go. Can you identify Brian's bird? You can identify Brian's bird. It's often found in the company of buffalo. Pop us an email at questions@WildEarthTV or use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. So, unfortunately, we haven't been able to find the bird I was going to draw, so I'm going to sketch one very quickly, very loose drawing. So I just use some nice shapes, make it a bit easier. And let's see if you guys can figure out what this bird is. So we're going to do it in stages as we drive. So we're going to do a first bit here. And we're just going to leave it at that for now. I wonder what it is. It looks like a spastic onion at the moment. But will the spastic onion turn into something interesting? We shall have to wait and see. So I went for a walk now, and I couldn't find any sign of Mr. Tingana. So we just had a quick look up at the waterhole. And slowly head back down towards that area, and if nothing there, we're going to head towards the southern boundary and then just double check that he hasn't managed to sneak out without us knowing. Also, very good to check if Karula's managed to sneak in without us knowing. So So I had a chat with someone who's seen that Birmingham boy who's under the weather. Now apparently he's showing milky eyes and heavy breathing are the two main symptoms. And it is possible it could be a snake bite. It'd be difficult to say without having to look at him properly, see if there's any inflammation, swelling in certain places, which can be quite difficult with a male lion. They're always fighting with each other. But I think probably the most likely cause could be a snake bite. But lions tend to bounce back. I mean, they're big animals, and he weighs over 400 pounds. So he might just need a day or two to work through the venom. But he is still calling, so that's a good sign. And I know the Sabi Sons are going to check him out this evening, so we're probably not going to have any more information about that until tomorrow. So very interesting, though, that one would always expect it's going to be another male lion to oust or kill a lion, but it can be the little things as well. But it'd be very interesting, very sad, of course, but that is nature. Well done to Tony, Sandra and Janie, who got it spot on, and they said oxpecker. So that was a little oxpecker. There he is again, flitting through after buffalo. Oh, Brian, there's the definite chill in the air. Yep. It has been freezing the last few days. I know you haven't been seeing me, but I haven't been lying in bed keeping warm either. We were actually, while we raised the Cheetah planes mast, it was raining, so it was a bit more tricky than we would have liked. But it's up and it's operational now, so, or not yet, not quite operational, hopefully operational by tomorrow. So sunset safaris, barring any gremlins, but I think they've managed to keep this one relatively gremlin free so far. So hi, and Nigel, who's in the United Kingdom. Nigel would like to know, is Cheetah Plains different in any way? It is, and that's what makes it so exciting, Nigel. Let me just double check for leopard tracks. You got the left, Brian? I've got the right. And I don't see any, I just see elephants. Okay, well, let's check a little bit further to the west. So, Nigel, it is quite different. Now, believe it or not, some of the crests, so the crests, the high ground between the little drainage systems, or river systems, are thicker than here. So, and we do get a few different species of tree that I don't think we see too often here, like the Cassia abbreviatum, the long-tailed cassia. But the really exciting thing for me is the gabbro. Gabbro is a soil type. It's a basalty soil, and what it offers is a lot more open area, so a lot more sort of vast open plains, and there's a good possibility of spotting other species on there like cheetah. Also, its proximity to the greater Kruger National Park, and a 3-in-a-row plan being the most sort of central water in that part of the world, attracts a vast number of buffalo. And the Birminghams literally spent, I think, 3.5 weeks in that area just eating buffalo every day. So when it gets dry, it's going to be an incredibly productive area, and I'm really excited to work it. Of course, there's a chance to see some of our old favorites, old Quarantine and Kunuma, and I'd really dearly love to catch up with Mr. Kunuma, or Mr. Snarly Face, as some of you guys call him. Well, no, there's a very, very old lion tracks. So, Sandy is wondering about leopards, in particular male leopards at Cheetah Plains, and who holds dominion from the males. So at the moment, the dominant male in that area is Tingana. He has recently acquired it from Mvula. So Tingana is the dominant male down there. But there is another male leopard who some of you guys might know by the name of Shavambalan, who is one of Karula's offspring, and he is now getting to the age where he might start being able to challenge for territory. So there could be a box up there quite shortly. And then Quarantine and Kunyuma are in and out of that area quite regularly. Okay, off that side, onto this side. I'm just trying to make sure I don't cause too much of a traffic jam. What was that? What was that? What was that? No, it wasn't a leopard track. It was a hyena truck that had been half driven over. So, alas. This is the area where Karula has been passing through quite regularly. So while we have a check, and there's another vehicle coming up, so I'll try and get an update from the east for you, and let's go see what Jamie's up to while I get that update.
We have reached sort of a crisis point in camp where all of the apples and bananas have been eaten largely by one person, but we will not be mentioning any names, and Jean-Ray happened to bemoan this situation when we first set out on drive. So I've stopped at a bush called a white berry bush. Now, Jean-Ray, I think you might be out of luck with this particular white berry bush. It's the one with the little berries on it at the top there. Oh, no, sorry, this one here. Sorry, I always do this to the poor cameraman. I say the white berry bush and they have no idea what on earth I'm talking about. I'm getting out and show you. Sorry, Jean-Ray. That was entirely my fault. So I'm looking at these little berries here of the white berry bush. And one of them looks sort of vaguely ripe. And that I will collect for Jean-Ray. The whiter they are, the nicer they are. Here's another one. And there is one more. The rest of them haven't quite got to that stage. So in a show of good faith, I'll eat one, and Jean-Ray, you can have one as well. This will definitely keep you going for the entire drive. An enormous meal.
Too much. Only one.
Only one. Well, the rest might fill him up. They were nice. They're really nice. I want a bit in my mouth now. Now Jean-Ray wants more. There we go, Jean-Ray. I found you a really nice one.
Thanks, Jamie.
That's a pleasure. There you go. I found you two nice ones. Something really, really yummy. That being said, if you do ever come out here to visit South Africa and you find yourself in the bush and you want to have a little bit of a snack, please just double check with a guide or somebody around you that what you're eating is safe to eat. Just, in case you might have identified the plant wrong or something. I mean, I can't really think of anything that is like a white berry bush that is toxic. But you never know. Stranger mistakes have happened in people's time visiting this area, and there are some very toxic berries. Now I just have to find some guari bush berries for Jean-Ray, and I feel as though our time shall be complete, or our meal shall be complete. The reason why I'm now doing the safari backwards, it's a bit ridiculous, I'm sorry, but I'm doing the safari backwards. I'm coming to look for a terrapin, a slightly better terrapin sighting than the one that Jean-Ray spotted, which was as wonderful as it was and as good a spot as it was quite far away. No, there isn't a terrapin. There is a bright blue little blue waxbill running along the top of the wall on the sort of the left-hand side of the, there we go, perfect, thank you. That was a bird that I contemplated drawing this afternoon before drive. Such a beautiful, vibrant blue. It wants to go drink, but it's a little bit, I think it wants to go drink, but it might be a little bit nervous. Oh, not that nervous. Going down. Here we go. Very wonderful. Having a drink at the water's edge. This is the kind of thing, because when you have a tracking quiz, the different questions are graded according to difficulty. And somehow I imagine that the tracks left behind by that little blue bird would probably have been graded a 3, which is the hardest. It's either 1, which is the easiest, something like an impala track, all the way up to 3, which is the hardest. This is very much a bird-themed drive, but I'm not sure if I'll be able to quickly see if I can't see another one. It looked like a little woodpecker that flew into that tree, but I think it's going to be next to impossible for Jandre to be able to put on camera. I have to find it first as well. Oh, I can see it. Sorry, Jandre, this has been a bird in a distance challenge. There's 2 doves, yes, and I'm looking at the woodpecker in the tree, the tall tree to the right of that at the back. And yep, okay, go to the second branch. To the right, there we go. Live bird filming. That's going to happen almost inevitably at some point. There was a woodpecker there. I think it was a golden-tailed, for those of you wanting to add to your bird list, but I'm not entirely sure because it was gone before I could get a proper look at it. Woodpeckers are also lovely little birds. It's one of the way, I mean, I know we've talked a little bit about the meaning behind this Draw a Bird Day or National Draw a Bird Day, but it's one of those really good ways of actually learning the different species. Woodpeckers, for example, can become incredibly confusing between the females and the males having different coloration, half red heads, half brown heads in the case of the Bennett's woodpecker, all kinds of different tiny little differences within them, maybe a streaked chest instead of a spotted chest. And drawing those things out in order to learn the difference between the different woodpeckers, if you're a really keen twitcher or a bird watcher, is a nice way of learning the differences between them. And you'll find once you've drawn them out, you'll never ever forget all the differences. Differences, yes. I think these nkuhumas have grown wings and flown across the road somewhere, because I just haven't seen a single track for them. You never know, they could well be sitting in the middle of a block on a kill, but we must have missed their tracks coming across and out of the reserve. Not out of the reserve, out of Djuma, out of our traverse area.